Hey guys, Theo here from Believe Hi-Fi, and today we're going to be going through the ADI-2fs DAC from RME. Now, before we get into how this unit sounds and compares to other units, I thought it would be a great idea to give you guys a quick rundown of the design. So, starting with the front of the unit, on the left-hand side you've got your standby button. You need to hold this in for about a second, just like this, to either turn it on or off. Moving on, you've got your outputs for headphones, both a 1/4 inch for most full-size headphones and your IEM output. What this unit does really well is it can detect the sensitivity of the headphones, meaning you're going to get an appropriate amount of volume and power out of this unit. Talking specifically for this IEM output, I was really impressed with it. I tested it with the Campfire Andrometers, which are extremely sensitive and are known to reveal noise flaws in a whole bunch of other units, and let's just say it was dead silent. And not only was it dead silent, it performed amazingly, which we'll get into more when we talk about the sound. Here, obviously, you have your volume knob. It's quite satisfying because there's small clicks that made me feel like I could get an accurate control of my desired volume. Moving on, you've got some buttons here that can help with going through the settings, your on-screen display, and further dials here, which have the same click feedback as the volume knob, and also press in, which helps you navigate the menu. One thing that I want to say is that it is quite a difficult unit to operate, and you may need to spend a bit of time in the manuals to get your head around just how to go through everything. Now, turning this around, you'll see it's actually quite a compact unit, which is great if you want to save a bit of desk space. Nothing so fancy here on the back, pretty standard. You've got both your line outputs, either balanced or unbalanced, and some digital inputs through USB and your SPDIF, either coaxial or optical. And now that's it for the design of the unit. Before we move into how this unit sounds, I just quickly want to go through what the philosophy at Believe Hi-Fi is when assessing audio equipment. Now, yes, I'm a stickler with the detail and I want that really high resolution sound. However, above all, what I value is how close am I getting to the music? Do I feel emotionally engaged? Does this sound make me want to just stop everything and be present and really just listen to that music without wanting to be distracted by my phone? Okay. Now we've got that out the way, you may be thinking, why review a company that has generally produced pro gear rather than hi-fi audiophile gear? Well, it's a great place to start for the sound of this unit, because despite being an RME product, who generally make products, as I said, for professional use, it is not cold and clinical sounding, nor is it sterile. Actually, I find it to be really neutral, to the point where I think it's a great product to use as a reference. So if I ended the review and just said this product was a great reference product, I don't think it's quite doing the product justice, because I actually really enjoyed the unit myself. And I found that on a wide range of equipment, both headphones and speakers, it performed really, really well. And it's very hard to beat at this price point. So if you take that point that it's a great reference product, how does it, or how could it slightly deviate from being reference? Well, it does have some sound characteristics, as do all audio products. Now for me, I would like to say that maybe it's slightly mid-forward, and it has quite a smooth sound to it, which maybe means that you could get a bit of a smoothing over some of those really fine micro details and transients in the music. However, for me, I really enjoyed this product. Vocals and most of that mid-range sounded awesome. And I'd like to tell you about some experiences I had with certain IEMs, because for me, this is pretty damn hard to beat. This product here is maybe the premier IEM unit at the price point. So the first thing you'll notice if you went from most digital audio players, or certainly the ones I tried, to this unit, is that the soundstage seems to go from about this wide and about this high to low to about this wide and about this high to low, meaning you get a much more detailed experience with the soundstage and the imaging. When you've got some height happening and you've got more width, it means complicated pieces of music are easier to articulate, and it also adds to that feeling of immersion in the music. I think it paired amazingly with something like the U12T, from 64 Audio, or the Campfire Andromedas. I think it sounds absolutely fantastic, and it left me thinking, wow, this really gives full-size headphones a run for their money. Onto headphones, I think it's a really, really great pairing for something like the HD-600 series. Actually, I think it's maybe the best pairing at this price point. It really just complements everything that the HD-600 series does well, and I would be really surprised if anyone was disappointed with how it sounded. Where this product has a little bit of troubles is if you're going to get something into it that requires a lot of power. What you'll find is, yes, it is capable to drive the headphones. However, you're going to miss a little bit of that really powerful low-end drive and that visceral bass. However, the unit is quite small, and at the price point alone and the form factor, I don't think we can expect it to deliver the power of a full-sized standalone headphone amplifier. Now, let's talk about some comparisons. I think the best one would be something like the Chord Qutest. They're practically the same price, and while the Qutest can't match the feature set here, what it does do is lets me play the two off against each other as a DAC versus DAC comparison. And while I think that the Qutest is probably technically a better DAC, I felt like I was getting more hyper resolution and detail out of the Qutest, I didn't necessarily have more enjoyment from that unit. Maybe for classical or super well recorded songs, I did have that wow factor a little bit more with the Chord Qutest, but for most of my music listening, I really, really enjoyed this RME unit. And not only that, when you consider this also drives headphones fairly well and can go straight into something like your studio monitors and has EQ and crossfade settings, it's pretty awesome. Now, let's move into the features of the product and my final closing thoughts. So, as for features, not only is this a amplifier, DAC, preamp, it also does some pretty cool things like crossfeed. So some recordings, maybe some jazz from the 60s, this crossfeed setting is actually quite interesting and worked quite well. What crossfeed does is it stops it sounding so like left and right and can give you a better here's the sound type of experience. Moving past from that, the EQ was really good. I think it's a 4-band parametric EQ, and while I did play around with it a little bit, I personally don't like to use EQ. I personally will buy a set of headphones, earphones, or speakers based on their natural sound characteristics. I find with EQ, what happens is the imaging can sometimes be a little bit disrupted, and for that reason, I'm not a fan of it. But if you are into EQing, this is going to do a fantastic job for you. And if you want to tinker with your sound, it's a great product to play around with. Now, closing thoughts, at this price point, this unit is pretty damn hard to beat. I think you'd be really hard pressed to find anything better. Even as a standalone DAC, I think it really can compare with the Chord Qutest, and I think a lot of people would actually prefer the sound they get here. Maybe not as hyper detailed, but the mids are a little bit forward, it's a little bit smoother, and maybe that's your cup of tea. So overall, I think it's an awesome unit. You'd be hard pressed to find anything better. And if you want an all-in-one solution at this price point for your monitors, your headphones, your IEMs, look no further.